The draw shot can be really evil. It is probably the most feared shot, and it's safe to say that the draw shot is also one of the most difficult shots we have in pool. And on top of that, the draw shot can really mess with your head. So my question to you is, can you dedicate 100% to a draw shot, or are you scared of miscuing? This is a draw shot, but this is also a draw shot, and there are many different kinds of draw shots in between. So let's talk a little bit more about the draw shot, how it works, why it is so damn difficult, and how you can finally be able to play a solid and controlled draw shot. So now let's first establish what is a draw shot.
Alright, I guess it's obvious. You have to hit at least below the center in order to give the cue ball a little bit of backwards rotation. Here I'm playing different kinds of draw shots and a little bit of draw, a lot of draw. Now with this one I'm playing a lot of draw. You can see that the ball actually takes a while until it grabs and runs back because of all the backward spin. Here I'm playing a draw shot with a side spin. So I added a little bit of left side spin, so the cue ball goes to the right after hitting the rail. And here with the next shot you see like a draw shot with right spin, which means that with right spin the cue ball goes to the left after the rail. And please remember, there's not just one draw shot and that's it. There are many different kinds of draw shots depending also on the hitting point on the cue ball. As you can see here, you can go a little bit below the center or all the way down on the cue ball, which you need for a maximum draw, for example. But on top of that, it also depends on your stroke and your technique. So how much do you accelerate the cue through the cue ball? How much follow through do you add? How much speed and power you add. So there are all sorts of draw shots. And of course the maximum ones, they all look nice and cool and sweet, but you also need the small draw shots. Just getting the most out of it here. You also need position shots in a small area where you really need to control the draw. And please also not just think about straight shots. The draw shot is a powerful tool for your position game, so you also need the draw for situations like here where you break up balls, but also for angle shots where you need to play position for a certain shot, like in this typical 9-ball situation.
So what makes the draw shot so much more difficult?
We all know what the issue is. As soon as we get to the edge of the cue ball, it gets difficult because we don't have that much room left, so we have to hit it absolutely right. If we don't do that, if we hit it sideways, too low, or the stroke is not smooth enough, we make the cue ball jump. We miscue, and that's an awful feeling. Every pool player knows what it feels like.
But even when you miscue, you can say, all right, I hit it too low or too much on the side, fine, I'll just check that box, done, focus on the next shot. But that's not that easy when it comes to the draw shot, because the next draw shot that you have to play after the miscue is very often crap. I'm sorry to say that, but it happens so often. It just creeps into your head. It really screws with your mental status.
So here are 3 mental tips that you can try out if you're struggling with the draw shot. First of all, when you practice the draw shot, record it and go through it and see if there is a really good draw shot. Then cut it out and put it on your phone and watch it over and over again. Fact is, when you miscue, you will remember that. But that also means you need something on the opposite. You also need to remember good shots that you played. So cut it out, put it on your phone and watch it over and over and over again. If you want to get better with draw shots, of course you have to practice it, you have to drill it. So you have to play a lot of draw shots and you have to dedicate to these draw shots 100%. Don't be afraid of miscuing. Actually miscue, go for it. Go 100% low and see what happens. And you'll see, even if you miscue, nothing bad happens. You need to lose the fear of it. And in order to do that, you need to put yourself in that situation. So go for a lot of draw shots, play with full dedication. And if you do miscue, alright, shake it off, try it again. Last but not least, you always need a plan B for your draw shot. And that means if you feel insecure, if you don't want to go low on the cue ball that day, you're not feeling it, then don't. So learn a draw shot where you hit the cue ball higher, like half a tip or even a tip higher. Yes, that means you might need a little bit of more speed and power, but trust me, for most of the draw shots, it still works. So learn a plan B draw shot where you hit the cue ball higher just in case you are too insecure that day. Alright, enough with the negativity. Let's talk about how we can use the draw. Let's start with the obvious. So you need the draw shot for straight shots to position the cue ball for the next one. Make sure you really practice different distances, because fact is, people think just because they can draw one shot they can draw all of them, and to me honestly it's much easier to draw this ball back where I have a lot of room for the 9 ball than to draw back just for one diamond. So make sure you practice all different distances. So now with straight shots it's obvious what you need to do, but where it really matters that you learn how to adjust the draw is for angle shots and position shots. Now in this case I'm playing the same situations with 3 different outcomes just by adjusting the type of draw that I'm playing. So you need to understand the following. If you want to make use of that backspin, if you want to get the most out of it, you also need to learn to give the cue ball time to grab. If you play a draw shot with this angle, but you play too much speed, the cue ball will not have the time to grab and you won't get much out of it. Now with this last shot, I am really lowering the speed, playing a lot of high quality draw. Look where the cue ball goes compared to the first shot. I'm going to give you a few more examples so you understand. Look at this shot. The object ball is on the spot, cue ball is on the head string. Now what I'm trying to do is pot the ball and avoid the short rail. So I have to go low on the cue ball, play a nice draw to avoid running into the short rail. I can only do that if I lower the speed. If I don't lower the speed enough, look what happens. The cue ball will not have the time to really grab. So here's another example. So lowering the speed, high quality draw, then this shot is possible. Now the next shot is also a pretty cool example for draw. The cue ball is on the spot, the 11 ball is 2 ball width away from the long rail. Now with the first shot I have to hit the other side of the table, so go into the other long rail with the cue ball. Second shot I have to draw back to the left side of the 8, so now I have to draw a bit more than before. And the third shot I have to draw back to the right side of the 8. In order to do that now I have to really lower the speed and play a lot of draw. Now here you can see if you play it with too much speed, the cue ball does not have time to grab. If you lower the speed, play high quality draw, then this shot is possible. And the next one is a pretty known example. You want to draw back for the 9 ball, but you want to avoid the side pocket, of course. So now you have to choose, what are you going to do? Play like a draw stun shot, so you hit the rail before the side pocket, which I'm going to do now. It's actually my favorite one in this situation. Or lower the speed and draw it back after the side pocket, but you don't want this to happen, of course. So now you really have to hit it right, lower the speed, play draw in order to avoid the side pocket. And here are 2 of my favorite shots. Drawing it back like this feels great. I love these type of shots. You can really see the cue ball grab after the rail actually. So a lot of draw, a lot of quality. I love it.
So the key is really to, of course, hit the cue ball as precise as possible, but also your whole stroke, the cue delivery, the acceleration through the cue ball, that is so important with the draw shot. And you always have to remember one rule: less is more. So I'd rather have less speed and power, but it's more of a controlled acceleration through the cue ball. And then it's also easier to hit the cue ball right when you do not force it too much with too much power and speed, because you do have just a little bit of room on the cue ball, right? Trust me, you will get so much more out of it. And then once you feel more comfortable with that, then you can start adding a bit more speed and power, because yes, for a maximum draw, you might need a little bit of more speed. But for most of the draw shots in a game, you do not need maximum draw.
If you want to play better draw shots, here are some of my key points that I find very, very important. Alright people, eyes on the prize. So when you go down into your shot, look at the cue ball and look exactly where you want to hit it. Put the tip where you want to hit the cue ball, and don't rush this process when you're going down before you do your pre-strokes. Now make sure you hold the cue as level as possible. If you are too close with your bridge hand, then you have to elevate the cue, and that's not very good for your draw shot, so you might want to lengthen your bridge hand. What you also want is a loose grip. Don't press the cue too hard. You don't want to press too hard because you don't want to block your wrist. The wrist is a powerful tool, maybe not for beginners and amateurs, but for later you can play a draw shot a little bit more out of your wrist too. The wrist action can create a lot of extra quality. So make sure your wrist is loose. Now, one of the most important ones in my opinion is a slower backstroke. It's kind of like a loading phase until you accelerate through the cue ball. So focus on a little bit of slower backstroke and then accelerate smoothly forward and through the cue ball. And one important thing, of course, is the follow through, which usually comes natural anyway. Don't copy me, of course. My follow through is longer because of the elbow drop, but make sure you adjust your follow through. The extra follow through will just help you with the smoothness and the quality.
I'm gonna show you what you shouldn't do, what I don't want to see.
So what is the opposite of a good follow through? A short stroke like that, and that will certainly raise the chance of miscuing. But what I also don't want to see is this: a lot of body movement and shoulder movement. You're kind of trying to force the cue through the cue ball. But what's also bad is when the tip goes up, the shaft goes up, leaves your bridge hand, and also make sure you don't rush this stroke. This acceleration through the cue ball can be a quite controlled and smooth stroke. Also avoid this: going up with your shoulder, like elevating in the back. That's a no-no.
The technique to stroke, the cue delivery, all of that stays the same, no matter if you play a stop shot, follow shot, or a draw shot. So when we talk about draw shots, we have to talk about the equipment, because fact is, it is much easier to draw a shot on a new table with new cloth and new balls. I understand that most of you are playing in pool rooms, so you cannot do anything about the tables really. Sometimes I suggest to, for example, get your own ball set, so at least you can play with a newer ball set that already changes a lot. What you can also do is get some Teflon spray and just polish the cue ball with that. I would not polish the whole set because that will make it really unnatural, but when you polish a little bit the cue ball, it gives the cue ball kind of like a new feeling. It's a bit slidier again. Try it out, works for me sometimes. But of course, eventually you have to learn to draw on every kind of table, right?
So if you want to practice the draw shot, here are 4 steps you can follow.
Step number 1, learn to draw, of course. Now you got to start somewhere. So at this stage, it doesn't matter where you draw the cue ball, what the distance is. You just learn to draw the cue ball, learn how the cue ball reacts, hit it a bit softer, hit it a bit harder, try to understand how the cue ball works, but just draw. And it doesn't matter the distance, you can have shorter distances in the beginning and then make it longer, but just draw the cue ball. Step number 2, now you learn to control the cue ball. At this stage, you can draw the shot, but now you want to control the cue ball. You want to make sure you draw it to this spot or to this spot. Use the target, use a piece of paper or whatever to mark the table where you want the cue ball to end up. So now you're really controlling the cue ball. Step number 3 would be to learn different types of draw shots. And what I mean by that is sometimes you play on a table, new cloth, it's very easy to draw the shot, but now you cannot hit it that low because it just, rolls way too far. So now you have to learn to play the draw shot but hit higher. Why is this step so important? It's because you learn to adjust your stroke and your technique to whatever you need on this table on that day. You play sometimes on a used cloth, you sometimes play on a new cloth. That changes the draw shot. I don't have to hit low, really low on the cue ball when I play on a table with new cloth because it's so easy to draw, so I have to hit a bit higher in order to control the cue ball. And that's what I mean. Step 3 is about learning how to adjust your stroke and your technique to play a draw shot on pretty much every kind of table under any kind of circumstances. And step number 4 would be now to play positions like typical situations, angle shots where you play draw, but now you have to learn how the cue ball reacts when you play angle shots with draw. How can you play around with the speed, making sure the cue ball really has time to grab. So that would be, in my point of view, step 4. Before you had a lot of straight shots, now angle shots, position shots, typical situations where you would play draw. That's it with the draw. We all fear this kind of shot sometimes. We all struggle sometimes. You're not alone out there. So I hope this helped you a little bit. And as usual, I talk to you soon.